come so far to harbor life. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand.
Well, we have something rather unique today. You know that thing that happens on my channel where conspiracy theorists rarely have the cojones to stand up and make a response video to me, let alone debate me? Well, I can all but guarantee a debate won't happen. Unless, going once, my dude. But a new response video has happened. It's not addressed specifically to me, which is to say my name is never actually said, but it's all centered around a Twitter thread that heavily involved me. Let's do a little breakdown, shall we? 7:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, July 7th, 2021. Twitter for Android. Neil the 604 Atheist tweets out this image, mocking the claims of Apollo hoaxers. All in good fun, right? It's a simple comedy meme, less a debunking meme, rearranging the structure of the "mom says we have X at home" meme. Nothing to get worked up about, right? Well, enough for Mr. Flow State. Enter stage left. This is the official NASA footage from Apollo 17 launching off the moon. I can't speak to all Apollo missions, but I can say for sure at least this moon landing was a fake. Attached is, wait for it, the official NASA footage of Apollo 17 launching its ascent stage off of the lunar surface. I react with the most objective thing I can think of. And why can you say that for sure? Flow State responds, you either didn't watch the video, or you're trolling me. Well, for brevity's sake, let's watch it, shall we? Most of us have probably seen this before. The final men to walk on the moon have boarded the lunar module and separate from the descent stage while blasting the ascent stage up into the lunar sky.
Port stage pushed. Engine arm is ascent. Okay, I'm going to get the pro. 99, proceeded. 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Right away, Houston. Vector good. X thought.
Yep, looks about right, doesn't it? Well, Flow State insists that it's clearly fake because, to quote his reply to someone else in the thread, rocket thrust does not look like that IRL, and to back up that notion, posted a screenshot of the SpaceX Merlin 1D vacuum engine on the second stage of a Falcon 9 as proof. Logically enough, most of the replies were, so what? Eventually, Mr. Flow State decided to make a video about the many replies he had received, and today, we're going to watch it. Get your popcorn and bingo cards, everyone. It's time for a flurf in a car. Disclaimer, I don't actually know he's a flurf, I just know he denies at least one Apollo landing. This is a joke, please call me O-Tits.
I just looked at my Twitter. I want to post this video into the tweet where y'all can find it if you're inclined to, but I'm not reading the responses that have been, all the new responses that are there since I last looked, much less responding to them. So I'm gonna just kind of pepper spray everybody with this and leave it here, and y'all can, on the tweet, and y'all can throw a fit, because
30 seconds, and he hasn't actually said anything at all. Why am I not surprised?
I've challenged your worldview, and it's an uncomfortable feeling.
Oh, that's so funny, dude. Talk about a superiority complex. You think you're challenging worldviews here, but you're about 4 or 5 decades behind. You see, the first part is, we've all seen this before. You have nothing to say that we haven't already looked into. The second part is, you have nothing to say that is your own original thought. I believe this to be true of about 95% of space deniers. They have never looked at a single event in their entire lives and decided it was a hoax all on their lonesome. No, they say things are fake because someone told them they were fake. And that's what you're going to do today, Mr. Flow. You're going to parrot the works of Bill Kaysing, the premier Apollo hoaxer whose major novel about the moon landings was published in 1976. Your arguments are older than you are.
For anybody who doesn't have a clue what's going on Twitter earlier, which Twitter's always a problem, it's the easiest place to find like flash mobs of people all defending the agreed upon worldview that they share. But anyways, so made a comment, found a tweet talking about moon landing, and I posted a video of the Apollo 17 shuttle launching off the moon, which...
There's your first big hint. Mr. Flo has already shown us that he subscribes to the I don't know a single thing about how rockets work, but I know they don't work school of thought. Shuttle? I don't think anybody has ever referred to the Apollo LEM as a shuttle. Maybe during its development, but otherwise it has always been called the LEM, the Lunar Module, the Lunar Excursion Module, or that one in particular, Challenger. Challenger, by the way, hey, pay attention, Mr. Flo, I'm educating you. Challenger was also the name for a later spacecraft that would be called a shuttle, the NASA Space Shuttle Challenger, which flew until 1986, when it was tragically lost. Okay, so tell us how the moon shuttle worked, dude.
If I remember, maybe I'll splice in right here.
3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston. That's your grid.
If I don't remember, you got to check it out. It's the most absurdly... It's just absurd. It's absurd. It doesn't look... It's such a bad fake. It doesn't look like they were even trying to have it not look like a fake.
So let's go over that again. Do we have the transcript? We do, okay. Would the court please read back the last 4 lines? It's the most absurdly, it's just absurd, it doesn't look, it's such a bad fake. Right, got it. Moving on.
It got a little pop in the thrusters, like shoot out this cheesy 80s looking multicolored glitter splash. It just, yeah, I'm not gonna try to explain it. You just gotta watch it. It's amazingly bad.
Well, here we are, yet again, that amazing thing happens with all NASA conspiracists, where NASA is simultaneously so brilliant that it pulled the wool over the entire planet's eyes, and also so utterly incompetent that they left in major flaws that can be picked up by some dude in his car. So what were his major complaints? Let's see. A little pop in the thrusters, he said. Well, yeah. It's the lightest part of the entire launch system and it's 200,000 miles away from the influence of Earth's gravity. You don't need all that much thrust to lift something up off the moon, and so not that much thrust was used. As for the cheesy 80s glitter, I have a feeling he thinks that's supposed to be engine exhaust, but it's not. It's little bits of the descent stage's foil. You can tell because during the footage, the golden hue of the foil changes into several colors depending on where the light is hitting it. This is where I'll tell conspiracists to remember that rocket stage separation is usually achieved with a small explosive called a pyrotechnic fastener. The 2 parts of the rocket need to be forcibly ejected away from one another, and the easiest way to do that very quickly is to use small controlled explosives to blast them apart. The result of which, of course, is a tiny explosion, hence the flying flecks of foil. By the way, I don't actually know any of this for a fact. I'm just piecing all of this together based on what I know about how rockets work. Something Mr. Flo hasn't done.
So I comment, and it is a middle of the line comment. You know, it wasn't out of bounds, it wasn't rude, it wasn't abrasive, but I posted. I knew it was gonna be against the grain of the conversation that I was entering.
This poisoning the well is not going to go over well, my dude. First, it's as obvious as a police siren speeding through the intersection to get donuts, and second, you don't really have a well to poison. He's setting this up as though he came into the conversation with a calm and well-intentioned argument, and he was rapidly attacked in response. But that never happened, and we've got all the screenshots to prove it. Check it out. Every single response to him was either a clarifying question or an explanation of something he was failing to understand. So, where exactly is your "they're so triggered" argument going to come from, boy?
Of course it was. And that was intentional because the grain needed to be gone against. But since then, all these motherfuckers have come out just losing their shit.
Losing their shit, he says. I think something weird happened with the anti-snowflake movement at some point. Now, anytime anyone responds to any of them with anything ever, that person is triggered. No, dude, you spoke and now you're being criticized, so sit down and listen, boy, you might learn a thing or two. You okay there, bud?
So if you take a step back from the situation, the specifics of the situation, and just look at what's really going on here. Let's analyze this social interaction and what's happening with this tweet and the responses.
God, who would want to do that? Sit there and make a whole video analyzing a series of arguments and the
because there are a whole lot of these fluoride drinking motherfuckers who feel like I have attacked their worldview. Real upset. If you challenge something like this, saying the moon landing's fake, people who think the moon landing was not fake take that shit personal.
See, no, we don't, and I've already shown that. You are the one taking our legitimate criticisms as attacks here. You are the one taking it personal. All because we have challenged your recently established belief system by, instead of being astonished and taken aback by your wealth of knowledge, we have come prepared for it and shot back with rebuttals on all points. I'm so sorry your epic truth is so easily dismantled, my guy.
And it doesn't make any sense, right? It's kind of a weird response. I didn't say you faked the moon landing. I didn't say they faked the moon landing in your mom's vagina, which they may have. What I'm saying is the moon landing's fake. And under any context where you hadn't been brainwashed by every single person and institution you've talked to since the day you were born until the day the internet started catching up with the propaganda.
The internet? Again, your arguments are all covered in Bill Casing's book published in 1978. This has nothing to do with brainwashing. I don't speak on this often, but when I was a teenager and knew almost nothing about space travel, I thought the moon landings were faked. But the more I learned on my own, investigating the claims of the conspiracy and the counterclaims, I came to realize how absurd the hoax theory really was. So I'd just like to point out that within 4 minutes, Mr. Flo has resorted to the exact same cult-like mantras of the people on the internet who taught him everything he thinks he knows. You were brainwashed your whole life, wake up and see the truth, blah blah blah. Let's skip ahead to something interesting, shall we?
This organization, NASA, I can see how they would have a lot of incentive back then to fake a moon landing, if no other reason, just because it's easier. You can bill out for however much money it'd cost. And
see, you're saying a lot of things, but you leave so many more questions than answers. First of all, NASA has incentive to fake a landing. On a very basic, uneducated level, that might make sense, but you know who has an even bigger incentive to call NASA out on faking it at the same time and never did? 96% of planet Earth population, specifically the Soviet Union. That's my first question to you. Why didn't the Reds cry foul considering they were trying extremely hard to beat NASA to the moon? Second is the claim that it's easier to fake. Well, no, not really. This could be an entire video on its own, but let's go over the basics here. First off, you still have to launch the rocket. Regardless of where they go, you cannot deny that large rockets took off from Kennedy Space Center Launch Complex 39A. 10 of them, specifically, if we're talking strictly about the Saturn V. 6 of them would land on the moon, 1 would fail and only orbit the moon, and 3 would perform tests in lunar orbit for the first landing. So, regardless of where they went, you have the cost of launching those rockets. Next, you have to do one of two things. Either pay hundreds of astronomers to fake images of the Apollo rockets in orbit and in transit to the moon, or actually perform those maneuvers and soak the cost of that. Following that, you have to do something that's extremely monumental, especially when you phrase it like this. You have to fake 7 live television events that contain 360-degree panoramas of the locations but never reveal a fourth wall, and contain no glaring errors that can be picked up on by the scrupulous movie nerds of even the 1960s. Not to mention, this entire operation will require the manpower of at least 500,000 people, and you need NDAs for every single one of them, and by God, you had better keep them quiet for the next 50 years. My dude, at what point does it start to sound easier to just go to the freaking moon?
Well, let's assume you do know how to get to the moon, which that's a big assumption. Why even bother if you could just fake it and pocket shitloads of money and then keep that going so you've got a black budget sinkhole of funds indefinitely for decades and decades?
Man, you've really got to start learning what you're talking about before you get into these discussions. Your argument is that faking Apollo gave NASA a classified blank check budget? Have you seen the chart, my dude? Since 1972, that thing has done nothing but go down. Every single year, NASA gets less and less, and every single year, because of people like you, our chances of reaching the stars before we kill ourselves get smaller and smaller. Alright, let's get to the meat of this crappy sandwich. What other talking points are you going to blurt out? Let's take them down one by one.
Can we look at, I don't know, tapes, pictures, evidence from the mission? We can't. You know why? Because if you start doing some research, you realize that apparently NASA accidentally taped over all the original footage from the Apollo missions. And that is
another talking point that's been debunked 1,000 times. NASA misplaced some reels of tape that contained slow-scan television footage of Apollo 11, which was recorded as a backup. Again, you forget that there were 9 other missions. No video? No photos? What are you talking about?
We can look for consistency over time throughout the statements of the astronauts, right? Maybe that will help us feel more comfortable that if they're all saying the same thing over the course of time, they don't have any weird blunders while at speaking events or whatever where they really fuck up something that you wouldn't expect them to fuck up if they had actually gone to the moon. If we don't find any of those, and oh wait, we do have some of that. So they're not consistent.
No actual evidence for that, so Hitchens' razor. Next.
And then we learned that NASA was basically founded by Nazi scientists.
Another talking point, NASA was funded by Eisenhower because he was the president at the time, and the only real connection NASA has to Nazi Germany is the employment of Werner von Braun, who was a rocket scientist and Nazi by proxy. Depending on whether or not you're a flat earther, Mr. Flo, I'd advise you to look into the political beliefs of Eric Dubé, the founder of the modern-day flat earth cult.
We don't, turns out, have the technology anymore to get back to the moon.
Sir, I'd like to introduce you to Artemis 1, launching the Orion spacecraft aboard the Space Launch System to perform an uncrewed lunar orbit and return mission scheduled for November of this year. Artemis 1 is part of the ongoing program that is literally, right now, returning people to the moon. Here's a real problem with Apollo deniers. Their talking points all come from when Orion was a concept spacecraft in like 2015. It's not anymore. It's real. And we're going back. Next.
So, let's see. Founded by Nazi scientists.
Yeah, go ahead and pull out the list there, regurgitate all the talking points, that's a good parrot. Come on, Polly, ask for a cracker.
Well, at least there's not, any actual evidence of them faking the moon landing, like, oh wait, there is. Who's the guy that filmed The Shining?
I'm gonna save you the embarrassment here and cut out the solid 5 seconds of stuttering.
Stanley Kubrick. You can look it up right now. Stanley Kubrick admitted to directing the moon landing. He talks all about it in an interview. He died shortly after of a heart attack.
Yeah, nice try, dude. It's a fake interview. Check it out. Here's a frame from the interview of someone alleging to be a near-death Kubrick, and here's the actual near-death Kubrick on the set of Eyes Wide Shut. Clearly two different people. Not only that, but Kubrick's estate have denied all claims about Stanley's involvement with the moon landings, and let's just think about this for a second. We're talking about Stanley Kubrick here. We're talking about a man who, long before the moon landings, gained access to the Pentagon and shot a movie where he made the United States government look like cartoonish buffoons.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
We're talking about a man who, on video, bullied the crap out of actress Shelley Duvall for weeks during the filming of The Shining.
Look at this. Pulled all my hair. I pulled hunks of hair out on the windowsill. And the back got cut.
Hunks of hair.
Oh, look.
Okay.
Because he wanted her to actually look the part of an abused and distressed housewife. Stanley Kubrick was such a pure artiste that if he had directed the moon landing, he would have demanded it be shot live and on location. So, maybe he did.
All the sheep come out and freak out. And you've all seen it a million times. This is how these conversations go. I make a claim. I don't believe this is real moon landing. Here's the video. Here's why. Look at the thrusters. I don't believe there's real thrusters. And all of a sudden you got every single person who sees it and objects thinking that they deserve a custom-made, I'm supposed to answer every question from every person with completely unrefutable proof. And it's a joke. I'm not wasting my time with that shit.
Nice. He basically just admitted that if he's unable to respond to any of the basic inquiries about his objections, such as what's wrong with the thrusters, it's because he just doesn't wanna. Cool, bro. Thanks for bowing out early. It's been fun and this was super easy. Going twice, Mr. Flo. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. If you want to support me further, consider becoming a member or a patron, or checking out my merch or my Amazon links. Thank you, and I will see you over the curve, Space Cowboys.
In a vast cosmic arena. Our imagined self-importance, the delusion